Your journey can only begin when the self-doubts stop. The first step is harnessing your bravery within. Believing in you is your host, Sean Williams. Hello and good day to you all. My name is Sean, and I'd like to thank you for tuning into another Persevering as an Introvert episode of Bravery Within. I'd like to take just a second here to say, as always, thank you so very much for tuning into my podcast. It means the world to me that you take a few minutes out of your day to turn on my station there and hit play and listen to all the stuff that I've got to talk about. Lord knows there's a lot there to talk about, so you just never know what you're going to be getting yourself into with me. Thank you for all your shares, your likes, your comments, and everything else. And something that's really, really neat that I wanted to bring up today is one of my most faithful listeners. Her name is Mary, and I'm so lucky to be able to also work with her. She actually submitted today's dad joke of the day, and I got to tell you, when she told me this the other day and stuff, I about fell on the ground laughing. I absolutely love it. So I'm just letting you know that we actually have a listener submitted joke for the podcast. So it'll actually be the second one that she has done. So I think she's kind of getting into the hang of this. That's the best part. So I just wanted to talk about today, and the reason I wanted to bring that up a little bit there is because today's episode here is a little bit, it's probably a little bit darker and stuff. There's a little bit tougher. Us introverts, we struggle with basically getting out of our comfort zone. I'm not going to lie about that one there, but there's lots of people that we deal with on a daily basis, and we struggle with those people. So I wanted to see if there were some things that I could try to help you with a little bit there with these people. So episode 6 today is called Toxic People. And I basically just wanted to take today and just talk about you're gonna encounter so many people that are toxic in your life. And the first thing is, if I can't make anything else probably clearer through this whole podcast and everything else, is toxic people, it doesn't matter whether it's friends, it's family, it's, mother-in-law, father-in-law, whatever it is, co-workers, bosses. We all have plenty of toxic people that are in our life that just see things in the negative. They see stuff on the dark side, and they choose to pick on your every flaw. They look for every reason to gripe at you. They look for every reason to tear you down. And we all have our fair share of those folks that do that. But if there's anything that that I'm hoping you'll take away from this podcast today, and that would be is it's okay to cut them out of your life. And I know as us introverts and stuff, their confrontation isn't one of our number one things to do. It's definitely not mine. On a scale of 1 to 10, it's probably a -6. Of how much I enjoy doing it, and I do my very best to try to stay out of those things. But unfortunately, you're going to end up running into these people, and they're going to end up tearing you down. They're going to end up draining your energy, your good vibes, everything about it there. You're going to struggle with it. So if you pull anything away from this podcast today, what I'm hoping for is it's okay. There's going to be times that you're going to run across people, and you're just going to end up having to either what we classify, which a lot of you know out there already, is just door slam them out of your life. And if you can't completely get rid of them out of your life, then the next step that's going to be is basically limit your time with them. And there's a few hints and stuff there that I've learned through the years. And I did a little bit of research before jumping into this episode and stuff here. So I'm hoping that there's some good information for you in this podcast today. If there is, let me know. Shoot me an email. I'd absolutely love to hear from you. So today is episode 6, Toxic People. And pretty much here we go. We all have those family members that get under your skin. Those are probably the first and foremost ones that you're going to say, oh my goodness, Sean, these are the ones that get to me the most. Well, we all know that they're tough to live with. I'm not going to argue that point. They're a handful. And I have done everything in my life basically to try to figure out, okay, how can I either not have them in my life, or how can I basically limit the time that they're in my life? And it's not just family members. I mean, it's colleagues, it's old bosses, it's just, I mean, there's so many people out there that want to just take up your time, drain your energy, and everything else. I am not picking on my family in any way, shape, or form. I don't want anybody thinking that. I actually have a lot of good family members out there. They're a lot of fun to be around and stuff. But you always have those one, or you got 5 of them in a family and stuff there that just seem to push you off the edge. You have friends that just they're just very needy. They just want to take up your time. They just want to, all they basically do is want to play victim. And we all know that gets so old so fast. And I hate to say it that way. I really, really do, because it's like, my goodness, it's like, okay, here's a solution. Let's see what we can do to try to help you, so you don't always have to be the victim, so you can move on, and maybe you'll actually enjoy your life a little bit more. Excuse me. But one thing that I've learned is, most of the time when you get those people that want to play the victim, that's all they want to do. They're not interested in any of the solutions that you have. They're not interested in getting help. They're more interested in whining about the same person day after day after day after day, instead of actually doing something about it. One thing that I've done for many, many years now and stuff there, and like I said, I did, if you've been listening in on my other podcasts and stuff there, you're going to learn that basically I did a monstrous change when I got divorced. I was with my ex-wife for 17 years. I mean, she was a great person that I got to talk to. She helped me grow it in many ways. But typically, when you're in a marriage and stuff there, typically your partner and you pick up some of the same traits, the same mannerisms, your body language. You start doing the same thing because you start thinking alike, because you spend so much time together. And being that I was with my ex-wife so early in life there, I mean, she came into my life. I mean, we weren't dating at the time, but she came into my life when I was 17. And I knew her all the way till 35, and I still know her. I mean, I still talk to her and stuff there. I don't have a problem with talking to her. I mean, that's just the way it is. I mean, I don't want to alienate her, and I don't want to feel it. She has a wonderful family. They're all Hawaiian. They're amazing. They still consider me part of their family. I'm very lucky to be part of this. But I did a lot of growing after my divorce, because basically what I had to do is I had to learn, okay, who am I? What am I going to put up with? What am I going to do? How am I going to change? Basically I had to go back to the book and figure out, okay, who is Sean? Because after I got the divorce, I remember for the first couple weeks just sitting in my chair. Well, at the time, all I had was my couch. I didn't actually have a nice comfy chair like I got now. And I just sat there, and I honestly didn't know who Sean was. I was completely befuddled with, okay, what makes me me? What makes me tick? What are my likes? What are my dislikes? And I had to basically go back to the book. And the weird part is I had to actually go and figure out, okay, I had to do some research on what does it mean to be a Taurus? As crazy as that sounds, the first thing that everybody thinks of is they're very stubborn, very hard-headed, and they have an explosive temper. Well, I'm here to tell you, I live up to that. And the temper part, I got, I'm older and I've mellowed out a lot, but, just know that, my complacency does have a price to it. If you push me too hard, then that bull will come alive, and here I come. But I had to go back and figure out who I was, and that's why I went back and I looked at my life path number. And there's so many different things, and yes, that's astrology, and I can hear people already out there going, oh, for Pete's sake, Sean, really? You're going to talk about that? Well, you can say whatever you want, but until you do the research and actually check into it there, it's actually really, really cool. And it took me a long time to figure all this out and become who I am today. But one thing that I had to learn pretty quick, unfortunately, was cutting out toxic people out of my life. I had to figure out, okay, well, I used to put up with a lot of people. I mean, I lost pretty much all my friends when I got divorced. They all went pretty much the ways of the wind. I really didn't have anybody to fall back on and stuff there. So I had some of my family that stepped up and helped out. And I did have one friend there that had stepped up and helped out, but for the most part I had to basically go back and figure out, okay, what am I going to do basically to keep all this negativity out of my life? Lord knows, going through a divorce, half of us that have been married will go through a divorce, unfortunately, and it's a horrible statistic. But one thing that we've all learned is that's just it's a very negative thing. It's very, very hard to go through. It's very depressing. And I was really, really worried that if I continue to hang out with the same people that I was hanging out there, those are the toxic people there, that it's going to slow my recovery down to find out who I am. To be honest, it took somewhere between 6 months to a year before I started figuring out, who is Sean. I mean, if you're probably sitting out there thinking, going, how do you not know who you are? I mean, that's weird. Someday, when you don't have anything on, no music, no TV, no phone, no nothing, sit there and think about what makes you you. You're going to sit there and you're going to go, I'm not quite sure. Start writing things down. That's what I ended up having to do. What do I like? What don't I like? What makes me me? What are my ups? What are my downs? What are my triggers? In the beginning, I had almost nothing on my paper when I started writing it. It's like, how am I this empty? But I was, and it was a very, very eye-opening experience. It took me a while to figure out, okay, this is who I am, okay? This is what I like. And I just wrote down things I liked in the beginning with. I didn't do anything else. I just started writing down things that I liked. And some of the things I liked, which I've talked about, is Mountain Dew. Of course, that was number one on the list. Next thing was chocolate. Next thing was, basically deep conversations was another one. I mean, it's just, you just have to sit down and slowly figure. But then I got to the parts that I don't like, and what were the trigger factors? What were the things that set me off? And one of the first things that I thought about, mainly probably because I had already had a bad day, was toxic people. And I hate saying it that way because it sounds so negative, but there's no other way to say it, because they're toxic for a reason, because they drain you. They think everything's your fault. They don't want to take responsibility for anything themselves. One thing that I learned is it really, really drained my energy when I was around those people. And yes, some of them were family members. A lot of them were acquaintances. Some were people I worked with. Some were bosses. That's just the way it is. There's such an array of people out there. And just so you guys know, my extrovert family and friends that listen to this podcast, even though you're listening to, about introverts, just know this goes for you guys too, because you guys are hit and barraged with these people as well. And I'm hoping that my extrovert friends out there will actually be able to take something away from this podcast as well. That's one thing that when I was actually going through and I was writing up my notes and stuff there on things I wanted to talk about for the show, and just for the record, I have 7 pages of notes, and so far I've followed about half a page. I'm horrible with, I don't know why I write notes. I just go off on a tangent anyway. But one of my hopes is I wanted my extroverted friends and family out there, I wanted them to get something from this podcast as well. And because there's so many people that I know, and there's so many people that have talked to me, and they feel comfortable, either coming into my office and talking to me, or they shoot me a text, or, some of them, like my family and stuff, they're the family that I adore and love and get to spend time with, because this world, there's just not enough time. They come over to the house, they sit on the couch, and they talk. And nothing, basically that makes me feel really, really good, because that means that they're trusting me with, the things that's bothering them, with their troubles, with their, their thoughts, their ideas. And to me, that's incredible trust that I never want to violate. So when they come over and they've had a really, really bad day, most of the time I don't offer any advice, especially right away in the beginning, because most people, what they need is they just need time to just, okay, I got to vent. I got to, all this verbal bataki, just blah, 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 and here it all comes. And so what if it takes 20, 25 minutes? It doesn't matter. I couldn't tell you how many times that I've had people, even my own son, when he comes home, he just absolutely blows up. But it's nice to know that he can feel comfortable enough to come home and talk to me. And he knows I'm not going to take it personally. He can say whatever he wants to say. It doesn't matter. Yes, there's times that he's cussing like a sailor. There's times I cuss like a sailor. I admit it. I don't let it come onto the podcast, because I want to make sure that, everybody can listen to the podcast. But there's just ways of, you have to get that stuff out, because the longer that you just kind of let that build up, it just basically, like, it gets toxic itself. And if you don't process those feelings, and that's something I'm thinking about doing another podcast on, is processing all of that stuff, because like I've told you guys in the past, I also am a work in progress. That's I'm just letting you know, I have made my fair share of mistakes. I have messed up big time. I have messed up relationships. I have messed up jobs. I have messed up home. I mean, it's just, I've just screwed up so many times that, unfortunately, all I got is an award that hangs on the wall. It says, from the School of Hard Knocks, you chose the absolute toughest way to do this that you possibly could. And like, I mean, I'm not a psychiatrist. I'm not anybody important that has an official document hanging up on the wall. Mine is a document that is, I can't even see it hanging on the wall, and I'm pointing to it right now, from the School of Hard Knocks. And there's so many of you out there that are the same way. It's just, you end up getting kicked around, you end up getting beat up, you end up getting ridiculed and tore down, and as you go through life. And that's one thing that I don't want to happen quite as much. So I'm hoping that something here, when dealing with toxic people, there's here in a little bit, I'll be talking about some of the things that I'm hoping that will help you through some of this stuff. Because unfortunately, just so you know, you can't change these people. I mean, I have tried. I always thought that, okay, well, maybe I can make things better. Maybe I can turn their life around. Maybe I can have them look a different way at something, so that way they're not so negative. They're not so harsh to be around. I mean, some of the people that I've been around, I mean, they're like, 36 grit sandpaper. As soon as you get near them, they just rub your skin right off there, because they're so abrasive. But I always try to find something positive in them. Now, granted, there's some that I have just washed my hands of, and it's just like, you know what, I can't do this anymore, and I'm not even going to try to change you, because you are so set in stone, and you're so set in your ways that there is no changing you. So what I do at that point is I just limit my time with them, and if I don't have to be around them, I don't. I cut them out of my life, and I stay away from them, because that's one of my triggers is toxic people. It's like, I try to, and hopefully you've picked this up from the other podcast, I always try to stay on the positive side. Am I perfect at it? Of course not. I'm not perfect in any way, shape, or form. I don't want you to ever think that. I like I said, I've made my fair share of mistakes. I've made, I have kind of my own code that I live by, and I've broken some of those rules trying to get to where I am today. And I'm sure there's people out there that could point out all kinds of my errors and my flubs and my bad judgment calls. I'm sure there's plenty of people out there that could do it, and just know that, hey, guess what? Before you go pointing the finger at me, make sure you point one back at you, because you have your own secrets and everything else that you want to keep hidden. All I'm saying is before you go to go after somebody, think about everything that they've been through. Think about everything they're going through currently. Most of the time we don't, we see people, and basically when you look at them, it's like a flat slate. You can't see into them. You can't see all that they're going through. You can't read how they feel. There's so much that's going on. You don't know everything that they've been through. So before you go and basically say, okay, you know what, I'm done. I can't do this anymore with you. Try your best to look at the good things through. I try. I honest to God do. I honest to God try to always find something positive in everybody. Now, I can't in everybody. I have tried, and like I said before, I have done my fair share of trying to change people in the hopes that they might be able to come around. They might see life a little bit better. Instead of seeing it half empty, the glass half empty, they're going to see it half full. Needless to say, some of them I've done okay with, but the vast majority of them, it's just a lost cause. They are who they are, and in many resorts, I just don't want to change them anyway, because I don't want somebody to change so I can be around them. If I don't like being around them, then I'm just not going to be around them. That's just the way it is. I mean, life is too short. Let's be honest here. The vast majority of us, the average age is like 74 years old. Well, I'm 49. I'm almost 3/4 of the way there of tipping over. So it's like, okay, I'm just not going to waste my good energy and my good time on these people trying to change them. I mean, it's just, you get to a point where it's just not worth it, because it just takes everything out of you to try to make this work. So some of the things that I have learned along the way, I'm hoping that these might be able to help you a little bit. Just to let you know, there's probably one thing before I get started in telling you some of the things that I've learned is, and I have went down this road before, just so you know. Yes, as an introvert, we like being alone. We enjoy working alone. We enjoy living alone. There's a lot that goes with it there because we enjoy our own space. We have our own ways of doing things. Just know that comes with its own cost. The more you're alone, a lot of the times you have nobody to talk to. And I know us as introverts and stuff there, we have a very hard time talking. I mean, we have to find, it takes a lot before we feel comfortable with somebody where we can actually discuss who we are and what's bothering us, and even just to let them into the core of who we are. I mean, and I'm the first one to say there's stuff there that, I'm very closed off. I have walls. I have built these huge walls where people can't get through to me because I have found it's the safest way of trying to get through life, because it is so overwhelming, and I get so tired of all the negativity out there that it's just like, you know what, I can't do this anymore. You're draining me. I'm so tired of the fake fronts. I'm tired of the false smiles. Everybody coming up and saying that, oh yeah, we're friends, and the moment you turn around, that they're driving a knife in your back. I have found, and I'm sure there's a lot of introverts out there that are the same way, it's just easier to build a wall and not let anybody in. But and I'm more than likely going to talk about this in another episode. I don't want to get too far into it, but I have found that also has a very, very negative effect on you. It can be mentally bad for you if you don't get your feelings out and you don't process them. Then basically that can turn into something toxic as well. Make sure that you're able to process your feelings and anything else that you're piling up, because it's kind of like you have all these feelings, and then all of a sudden they're like backing up behind a dam. Well, the dam can only hold back so much. It's like water. It can only hold so much water back at a time. Well, your feelings are the same way. And the more you pile them up and the more you don't process them and deal with them, they're just going to pile up, and sooner or later that dam is just going to explode. Now, before I go any further, I can hear my family members screaming at their speakers right now, yelling, "Sean, you need to take your own advice." And I'm not denying that. I'm just letting you know that this is what I'm finding. And like I said, I am a work in progress, guys. I'm not perfect. But just know that, processing that stuff there will help you. So before you think like me, and I spent years, I'm not going to lie about this. I spent years cutting people out of my life, not allowing new people to come into my life, not basically talking to anybody, nothing. I basically, for about 4 years, shut everybody out. I didn't let anybody in. The only one that I basically talked to was my mom. God rest her soul. She's sleeping now. And that was about it. I didn't really talk to anybody. And then I had one obnoxious friend that come along and stuff there, and she just kept pushing and forced me to start talking. She was really, really good. She took time. I mean, she spent years on me. Let's be honest here. I was that big of a mess when she first met me because I hated everybody and everything. I'm not going to lie about that. I'd like to think I've come a long ways and a lot of changing, but I just knew that with all the negativity out there, the toxic people, the bad people, it doesn't matter whether you're related to them or not. The toxic people are bad. And I grew up with a very, very toxic family member, and it has taken me years to repair that damage. And I'm not there yet, but I'd like to think that I'm 75-80% of the way there of basically getting all that stuff out of my head and reprogramming and looking at things differently. I've done a lot of changing in the past couple of years. I've worked very, very hard. I mean, not just my weight by losing a couple 100 pounds and continuing to lose, but I realize that if you listen to my weight loss program and my podcast and stuff there, you're going to know that I've worked very hard on the mental aspect. And the mental aspect fits here too with toxic people, because mental abuse, just mental, it is probably tougher than physical pain. I have had physical pain. I've been beat down. I have been shot at. I have been stabbed. You name it. I've been kicked. I've been you name it, it's pretty much happened to me. And I have found that over time, the physical scars and pain go away. The physical scars will go away. I mean, some you do keep because they're so horrific. But the mental aspect of all of that goes on for years. And some of it, I don't think I can get reprogrammed. It's just the way it is. I keep trying, and I keep getting told, well, maybe you should go talk to somebody, in a professional that actually does have a diploma hanging up on the wall, actually did go through 8 years of school, and that has helped a lot of people. And they're probably right. I'm not going to argue that whatsoever. But one thing that we Gen Xers are, along with being an introvert, is we keep locked up, and I've told this before. As a man, you don't discuss your feelings. You keep it all locked up. You don't process it. You compartmentalize it away, and you just don't worry about it. Well, the problem with that is that sooner or later that all builds up, and it always comes out in a bad way. So you have to weigh all of these things in. So for me, I try to figure out what are some of the things that I have done to basically cut the toxic people out of my life, or just minimize the time that I'm with them. And one of the things that I had to go back and figure out is why are they drawn to me? That was one thing that I had to figure out. Probably one of the biggest questions that I had right away was, why are they always drawn to me? What am I doing? That is there like a beacon on my head that says, hey, friendly person, hey, good person, come drain my energy from me and then move on after you get done draining me of everything. And I had to figure out why, and that was about the only thing that I could see is they hopefully wanted to be positive like me. They just didn't know how to do it. They were trying to find reasons why. Okay, well, this guy is nice, but I can't be that way. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to tear him down, so that way he's at my level and he can be as toxic as I am, and then I'll have won. Well, it took a while for me to figure out that, that's what they wanted, and it didn't hit me right away, but it did. So then what I had to figure out was, okay, well, this person is not good for me. I mean, it's kind of like, okay, like I said, I've lost over 200 pounds. The last thing that I need is a bunch of greasy cheeseburgers, fries, and drinks just plopped in front of me. It's kind of like when somebody who has quit smoking and they're struggling, and then you go and put a pack of cigarettes in front of them. It's the same thing. So with toxic people, I just had to find a way to keep them away from me, and so I can move on with my life and not allow them to drain my good energy and allow me to be me. Is it perfect? No, it's not a perfect answer, but it was a step in the right direction for me. And then I had to realize that, okay, after I say something, I'm going to be the bad guy. That's just the way it is, because I need to establish this boundary of, okay, you know what, you and I are just not going to, we're not going to meet in the middle. We're not going to see eye to eye. We're not going to get along for the most part, because I just don't want you around me because you're toxic. And it's not easy. I mean, these are very, very tough things to do, because for somebody like me, all I want to do is help people. That's all I've ever wanted to do. I wanted to be there for them. I want to build them up. I want to make them stronger. When they're having a bad day, I want to be there so they can take all of that out on me and get all that out of them, so that way we can basically give them a fresh start to take off from. But I knew that if I had to set some boundaries with these people, saying, you know what, even because I can't door slam every person out of my life there that's toxic, because some of them are bosses, some of them were people I worked with, and unless they quit, there's nothing I can do about it. So I have to find a happy medium about working with these people. So I just figured out, okay, well, if I can't get rid of them out of my life, then what I'm gonna do is I'm gonna set some clear boundaries. And just tell them, you know what, I'm not interested in talking to you after work. I'm not interested in hanging out later. I'm not interested in having lunch break with you. That's just the way it is. I'm sorry. I just don't enjoy being around you because you have such a negative attitude. And it breaks my heart to do that. It absolutely just tears me apart. But then what they do is then they turn it on to you, saying you're the bad guy because you're setting that boundary. And things just got worse. And there was times where I just literally said, you know what, don't even talk to me, don't come near me, whatever, go find somebody else to leech off of, because I'm not doing this anymore. This is self-preservation at this point, because you're draining me, you're making my life miserable. There's no reason for it, because our time on this earth is finite. We can't beg, borrow, steal for more time. And the last thing that I want to do is put up with somebody like you that is going to drag me down constantly. So I've lost a lot of people out of my life because of it, and some of them were good people because they heard how I handled things, and I've learned over the years how to handle it a little bit better. But you just have to establish clear boundaries at some point, and sometimes you just have to say, you know what, we're done. Don't even come around me. Don't talk to me anymore. Yes, it hurts, and yes, it makes you the bad guy. But once it's all said and done, you feel better about it. But you always want to try to take a positive way around it, because just get ready, because they're going to find a way to make it your fault. They're going to find a way to blame you for everything, and you're going to be the bad guy. So just make sure that when you start down that road with them, just get ready for a lot of, the negativity is just going to really, really explode, because it's going to be, they're going to all of a sudden be the victim again. And it's like, oh, nobody loves me. Nobody wants to be around me. Nobody wants to talk to me. Well, there's a reason why. Look in the mirror and figure out why you're so toxic and why you're so nasty and why you're so negative, and then maybe people would want to be around you. I'm willing to help you every step of the way. If you want to make changes, as long as you're the one that makes the first step and goes, I'll help you all the way to try to, so you see things differently. So sometimes it's just a negative self-talk. I fight that all the time in my head. I'm not going to lie. I have constant negative self-talk in my head, but I want to try to help these people if I can, but I'm not going to waste every ounce of my good energy in my life on them, trying to turn them around when I know it's a lost cause. So you're just going to have to understand that, when you set those boundaries, it's probably going to get some blowback on it, but in the end, I think you're going to feel better for it. And another thing, because I was sitting down and thinking about this, okay, well, if I did that, the next thing that I always did is I started to explain why I made that decision. There is no reason in the world you have to explain your motivation and your decision to not want to be around that person. No is no. There's no more powerful word that I can think of in the language than no. When you say no, there's no room for give, there's no room for take, there's no room for misconception. No is no. And I found that I would sit there after I made the decision, and then I would feel instantly guilty about telling these people why I don't want to be around them. And then I explained everything. Well, all that does is give them ammunition to say, well, that's the reason why you don't want to talk to me. That's the reason. That's shallow. What's wrong with you? I can't believe you would say that. Why do you even think that? And it's like, I don't owe you an explanation for not wanting to be around me. You're just very toxic. You're very negative. And I'm sorry. I just don't want to be around you. So I'm not going to be. And I just, sometimes I've just literally walked away. It's like, you're not going to win this battle with these people, so why even try? Why even compete with them? Because all it does is tear you down. Now keep in mind, I'm always trying to find the positives. Now, if they say that they're going to change, I'll normally give them a chance to change, but 9 times out of 10, they don't. They're stuck in these routines. They're happy going down the road that they're at. They're comfortable where they're at, and they figure if they apologize and try to make things, I'll change, then you'll hang around. Well, for the most part all that has done is cause more headache. But if they're willing to try to change, I'll give them one more chance to try to do it. I won't give them any more than that. But I also have to figure out, I've learned pretty good with all my years in management. I've learned to figure out people pretty well, and I can tell the ones that are actually going to change and the ones that are just blowing smoke. And I've gotten pretty good at that one there, and that's why I keep my circle of people that I talk to and hang out with very, very small. And I have been called every name under the sun that you can think of because of it, because I don't attend. I just drives me absolutely nuts to go, and when you have festivities at work, that's just not me, because I just don't want to be a part of it, because there's too many people there and there's too much small talk. And as an introvert, y'all know, small talk just grinds on our nerves. It's like, oh my goodness sakes, if you want to have a deep conversation, I'll sit down all day long with you and I'll chat your ear off, and I want to hear everything about you and everything that you're thinking and stuff. I'm fine with that, but it's just those whole things, anything getting together, we us introverts know that's no fun. Another thing that I learned is don't judge the people, even though that they're judging you and they're being rough with you. Always try to find a way to be, very, very nice, kind, respectful to them, because that's going to help you move on faster. Otherwise, you're going to feel like, oh, wow, I come across as a real jerk. Maybe I shouldn't have done that, or maybe I shouldn't have said that. And then you start feeling guilty, and once you start working guilt into it, and then they can sneak back in. And I've been down that road too, and where it's just like, okay, well, maybe I was too hard, maybe I didn't. Maybe I didn't give enough chances. There's so many what ifs that it starts factoring in, and at that point it's just like, you know what, okay, this just didn't work. So I've learned that once I draw that boundary, that's it. I don't explain myself. I don't need to tell them why any further. I don't need to nothing. It's just, this is the boundary. I'm not breaking it, and I'm not explaining myself. If you don't like it, then don't be in my life. I'm not asking you to be in my life. What I'm saying here is I don't want you in mine, or we need to limit the time that you're in my life, because it's just too much. You're too overwhelming for me. Another thing that I got really smart to really quick, because a toxic person is going to go after your weaknesses, so own them. That's the thing that one thing that I learned really quick is, okay, yeah, you know what? Hey, I'm not perfect. I messed up. I've made bad decisions. If you want to attack me and come after me, that's fine, because everything you're going to say about me, I'm just going to agree with, because it's probably right. And I'm not going to let that bother me. Say whatever you want to say about me. It doesn't bother me any. What's your thoughts of me doesn't impact anything. Because if I worry about what you think of me, you have to be really, really close to me. You have to be in my inner circle before I care about what you say about me, and it'll hurt. Everything else is kind of like whatever. You know what? You're just not worth my time. So as long as you know your strengths and weaknesses, because they're going to come after your weaknesses. They're going to try to attack you. As long as you know that and you're okay with it, you're going to be able to pull through this really, really easy. Mainly because it's just like, okay, you can't attack me because I already know that, hey, I made this mistake, or I made that mistake, or hey, I'm not the smartest person here, or I'm not the strongest person, and I sure as heck not the skinniest person, because that's why I'm on my weight loss journey trying to lose 300 pounds. So if you want to attack my weight because you're that shallow, then go ahead. But just know that no matter what, I'm still going to treat you with respect and try to understand where you're coming from. That's called taking the high road. That's just, when you break it down, that's what it means, is taking the high road. And I do that all the time. And I get told all the time and stuff there by my friends and family, you don't need to do that all the time. I do, because what that does is that keeps the guilt away. And that allows me to, when I go in and I look at the mirror and I look at the man looking back at me, then I know that I've done everything that I can. And I was the best that I could be, and I didn't get down in the muck and mud and play their game. I won't do it. So as long as I can be happy with myself and see, it's weird, but once you start seeing that person that's looking back in the mirror and you're happy and you're okay with it, then you're on the right track. You're doing the right thing. You're saying the right things. It's just for the longest time, I couldn't look at myself in the mirror. Granted, I don't like mirrors. I think they're creepy and disgusting, but what do? You still have to be able to comb your hair and everything else and make sure that you don't have any pimples on your face or anything like that, so you need a mirror. But for the most for the most part, I just know what my strengths and my weaknesses are. So when they try to use them against me, it's like, oh, well, go ahead. I'm going to tell you this. I'm harder on myself than what you could ever dream of being. So you take your best shot at me, because it isn't going to work. So as long as you know that, you're going to do okay. I choose my battles, what I'm going to pick with them, what I'm going to say, who I'm going to say it with. I found that helps out a little bit too. Just know that, there's a lot of times you're going to go into it and, hey, you know what? Hey, I'm not here to win every battle, and I could care less winning every battle against a toxic person. Mainly because I know that I'm going in and you're more likely not going to win, so it doesn't matter whether I win the battle or not. That's not the point. The point is keeping that negative energy out of your life, keeping that toxic life out of your life. It's just, the more you can do that and the more you can put space in there and enforce those boundaries, you're going to feel better. And sooner or later, one thing that I've kind of learned is, once you start taking a stance and you start basically saying enough is enough, I found that you don't have as many toxic people around you. They don't seem to gravitate towards you. quite as much. It's almost, for lack of a better word, it's kind of like Star Trek when you put the shields up. It's kind of the way it is. To me, that's kind of how I think of it. And I know that sounds goofy, but in my head, that's kind of the way I see it, because it's kind of, okay, you know what? You can't get to me anymore. I'm not letting you tear me down. I'm not letting you basically destroy my good energy. I know that sounds funny, but in my head that works, and I don't know I don't know if that's coming across real well in the podcast here. But for me, that's what helps the most is just thinking, okay, I know I'm not going to win the battle, so why even try? So set up the boundaries, keep them out, because I know personally I'm not a victim. I've said this many times in other podcasts there, that I'm a survivor, not a victim, and I've never seen myself as a victim. I'm a survivor, and when you have that, you take the positive side to everything, and you can basically grow, and things get a little bit better. I just absolutely refuse. People tear me down all the time. There's been many times that, yeah, they've won, they tore me down, and it beats me up inside, but they don't know it because I don't show it on the outside. You never see when something bothers me. It's just like, people walk around and say, well, I don't want to offend you. Well, I hate to break your heart, but you've offended me about 16 times, honestly, throughout the day with your comments and your rude, snide remarks and your looks and everything else. So the way you give me those yucky looks, it's like, what did I do to deserve this? But you know what? You don't know it. I keep that all locked away, and I don't let it bother me. It's kind of like, you're not, to me, it's like, that's when you're gonna get to me, and it's just like, I'm not gonna let you get to me. You're not worth my time to tear me down and make me feel bad. It's like, there's too much in life that's positive. That's why when I come home, I have my puppy at home, and she loves seeing me. We spend time, we play, fetch, we play tug of war, I sit on the deck, or, I go for drives in the hills. I just don't let the people bother me anymore. It just doesn't really do any justice to let them get to you. So that's why I've done everything I can to set up my house as best as I can, is basically a positive and very energetic atmosphere. So when you've had a bad day, you can walk into my house and you actually start feeling rejuvenated. It helps. I've spent years trying to figure out how to do this and what's the best way to go about it. And people that have never been to my house, the moment that they walk in the house, they just go like, wow, I like the way it feels. I feel very relaxed. I feel energized. I feel comfortable. And to me, that's a huge compliment. And I don't think it gets much better than that. So that's when I come home, I know that, okay, you know what? All of that stuff it just slides off of me, and I'm done. I'm not going to let them get to me anymore. We're finished, and I'm going to enjoy my life. I have a wonderful puppy. I have a wonderful son I get to come home to. I have wonderful friends that if I need something, I make sure that they're around me all the time. I'm always there. I'm always there for them, and I always do my very, very best to, basically, if I need them, I'll talk to them. It's just, there's only a couple people that I basically want in my life, so I can talk to them because they're wonderful. I'm there for them. They have bad days, I'm there for them. I have bad days, they're there for me. And those are the people that I keep in my inner circle. And because we all give, we don't tear each other down. We're there for you. It doesn't matter if it's 2 o'clock in the morning or 8 o'clock in the morning or 2 o'clock in the afternoon. It doesn't matter. We're always there for those people. And that's the way we are, because that helps us get through with all these toxic people that are doing everything that they can to tear us apart. I know that sounds kind of weird, and it sounds kind of gruff, and it's kind of like, well, you know what, it sounds like you're being mean, Sean. And in some respects, I have to admit I am, because I have to protect my good energy. I have to, when it comes down to it, it's basically self-preservation for an introvert, because we get drained so fast. We just, any kind of talk, any kind of conversation starts to drain us right away. Anytime that I was at a function, doesn't have to be a family function, could be a work function, could be meetings, could be anything like that. I drained so very, very quickly. And I hated it because then it would take me a couple days to recharge and get my energy back. But the problem is I didn't have a couple days to it. So it was just like, it felt like you were just on the Titanic and blah, 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 down you went and finished. It's, you just have to find ways of basically protecting all that stuff. And if that means you have to be the bad guy once in a while, then that means you have to be the bad guy, and you have to earn when they're going to come after you and say, well, you're mean, you're going to earn all this. Fine, do whatever you have to say to make yourself sleep at night, but just know that you can say whatever you want. I'm still going to sleep fine because I took the high road with you. I treated you with respect. I tried to help you. I let you know what the limits were, so I can still try to be in your life, but you weren't happy with them. Fine, whatever. I forgive you, but just know that I'm not going to forget how you treated me. That's all it comes down to. Is I'm not going to hold that grudge against you. I'm not going to try to whatever. But just understand, I'm not going to forget how you treated me and how you tore me down. So what I do is I just do everything I can to find the positive people that are going to help build me up. They're going to be there for me, and I have a wonderful support structure in my family. They're fantastic. They're always there for me. We got to add a new family friend and stuff there, a new friend of mine and stuff, and he's been so wonderful to get to know. He's been, great there. He has a great sense of humor. He's, if we needed something, he's right there. It's been fantastic. We don't let many people into our circle just because of everything that we go through. And I'm not saying we're snooty. I'm not saying we're stuck up, not in any way, shape, or form. We want to be there and we want to help everybody as much as we can. It's just, we just have to make sure that you don't drain us too much, because as introverts, we get drained very quickly. So, and you guys know that, being an introvert yourself, you know that. But I'm just hoping that something in this podcast helps my extrovert friends too, and family members, because you guys go through a lot too, and you guys need to be built up, and you need a safe place to go. And I'm hoping, even though we're opposite ends of the spectrum, but I'm hoping you find something in these podcasts for you as well that's going to help you, because that's all I do these podcasts for. I put in hundreds and hundreds and hundreds of hours into these podcasts already, because that's how much I believe in wanting to help folks, and I enjoy the heck out of doing them, and I enjoy the heck out of talking to you, and I'm so grateful that you make me a little bit of a part of your life, and you invite me into your life through your speakers. That's wonderful, and I can't thank you enough. So I'm kind of noticing by the time on my computer screen here and stuff here that, dropped my pen, sorry about that we're running out of time. So I just thought I would pretty much just shut down the day and stuff here to let you know, always be the bigger person. Do whatever you can. Take the high road. I know it's tough, and I know it. It seems like you're just never going to win, and in some respects you're not going to. But just know that you're trying. So that way, when you, like me, when you go and look in the mirror, you can look at the person and be happy with the person that's looking back at you. Then you know you're making the right decisions. You know you're trying. You're trying to do your best. That's all I can say on that one there. Just keep trying. But just remember, set those boundaries. Let them know that, okay, I can't do this anymore. But always try to help them. Always try to be there for them. But just know you're not going to be able to fix all the toxic people. And there's some you're just never going to. There's just no helping them. They refuse to change. Just protect your good vibes. Protect your good energy. Protect your safe space that you have at home, or wherever your safe space is at. Make sure you protect it and keep it to yourself. And after, whatever it is, treat yourself to something at the end of the day. If it's been a really, really tough day at work, or it's been a really, really tough day at home, just on a day off or whatever, and there's just all kinds of things that went wrong, treat yourself to something that you like to eat or drink. Just something. Like me, I'd sit down and maybe have like a Mountain Dew or something like that, and sit on the deck and watch the birds chirp or something like that. Whatever would basically help you to recharge and allow you to, basically get back to yourself so you can handle the next day. That's what you want to do. Set yourself up a safe space and go from there. Just know that you can't fix all the toxic people, and you never will be able to. So just don't try, but always be there for them if they need to. And same way with our extrovert friends and family members out there. All of this, hopefully this will help you as well, because I want to help you guys as well. It's not just for us introverts. I want to try to help as many people as we can. So leading into that there stuff there, make sure you like, you subscribe, you share, you comment on the pages. If there's any way to rate stuff, whatever platform that you're on, we'll take all the help we can get, because that all helps us move up in the algorithms, and other people will be able to find us, and we're going to be able to add on to our extended family that are listening to this podcast. So that's all I've got for today. I'm looking at the clock and it says I'm out of time. So like I said at the beginning of the podcast, thanks to Mary, she submitted this dad joke of the day. So I think this is hilarious. This is a great one. So I'm hoping you laugh, and here we go. The son goes to his dad and says, "Dad, I'm cold." The father responds, "Go to the corner." He kind of gives a puzzled look and goes, "Why, Dad?" And he goes, "Because the corner is always 90 degrees. That was hilarious. That was so great. I love it, love it, love it, love it. I told you, they only get better as we go on. So thanks so much for tuning in. You guys are amazing. Love having you guys listen in. Remember, you've got this. And as always, all my love and support